Ava, if you would like to start the recording. Okay, welcome to the workshop on our grading permit process. Today, we're going to have some Clark County Building Department members presenting some information to you. Myself, I'm Shannon McEwen. I'm the manager of building permits, and I manage the plan submittal, fee workup, issuance, customer service, and addressing work groups. We also have Stacy Rainwater. She's the supervising building permit specialist, and she supervises the plan submittal work group. We have Abe Tadese. He supervises the geotechnical plan review and inspections work group. And then we also have with us today Debbie Lake. She's our senior plan checker with the Public Works Development Review Team, and she performs the civil review required in the grading building permit. We also have Maria Caseco. She is our assistant planning manager, and she manages the zoning plan reviews in the building permit process. We have Emily Bernard. She is our supervising building permit specialist, and she supervises the permit issuance work group. We have Vince Rado. He is our supervising building permit specialist. He supervises the customer service and fee workup group. And we have Callista Sinagini. She's in our inspections work group and will present to us information about our inspection process. We also have Ava. She was the one speaking before we started the workshop, and she does a lot of behind the scenes work on getting this presentation put together for us and organizing all of us to be able to present to you. Some of the topics that we're going to cover today are going to be the different types of grading permits there are. One thing to take note of is that the grading permit process can be pretty complex because there's a lot of different pieces and parts to it. So we're going to do our best to present all that information to you. There may be a couple detailed steps that we skip, just trying to keep it high level in understanding, but we can always filter out your questions at the end of the presentation. So today we're going to cover the Clark County Building Department grading permit types, which are early grading and final grading. When it's a final grading, that could include stockpile, standalone grading that's not combined with a building permit. And it could also be building with grading, and that's when the grading is submitted with a building permit and it's not under a separate permit. Just keep in mind when you process a grading permit with a building permit that you will not be able to grade without your building permit. You've now combined them together. So if you think you're going to be able to get your grading first and you want to be able to get out there and start working while your building permit is still going through the process, it might be best for you not to combine. Then we also have the Clark County Public Works grading permit process, and they have 3 different types of grading permits. There's grading with existing offsites, there's early grading at risk with an agreement, and there's grading with offsite bond posted. We're also going to talk a little bit about early model grading. This is submitted to the Clark County Building Department as final grading because early grading does not allow early models or vertical construction. So high level, to show you here, there's these 2 separate processes. We have public works grading process that's associated with your offsite improvement plans, and then you have building department grading permit processes. When we refer to early grading, public works has an early grading process and we have an early grading process, and they are not the same. So as you can see here, I tried to capture where you see those 2 separate processes coming together to issue you a building department on-site grading permit. And in the middle there, we have zoning plans exam, and they check for their code requirements and also make sure that when the public works and building department plans come together, that everybody's needs are being met. So with, you can see here, I've kind of put early models and walls can be permitted with approval of a final grading permit on the building side. But on the public works side, you might not have full offsite approval, but you could be doing their early grading, which would allow early models but that early grading plan from Public Works would go into the building department's final grading permit. And we will explain this more throughout the presentation with each presenter. So with that, I'm going to turn over to plan submittal, Stacy Rainwater, so she could tell you about the intake of these applications.
Good afternoon, everybody. So this first slide here is just a view of our plan submittal services webpage. Here's where you can locate the relative how-to guides and the forms required for plan submittal. So BPG 061 is going to be the grading for a subdivision or parcel map. And then BPG 062 would be then for all other grading types. I just want to mention that these guides are a little bit out of date in terms of the instructions to submit in person and things such as the number of copies required for submittal. Of course, we're all doing electronic permitting now, so you should plan to always submit everything through the Citizen Access portal. And we'll only need then, one of each required plan or document. If you have any questions or you're not sure, you can always reach out to us, but the forms that are required are going to be the BPA 006, which is your grading permit application form. The early grading permit application form is identical. The only difference is that it's the EG and it specifies at the top there between early and regular grading. Each application form for grading will also require the multi-species habitat conservation form. Say that 2 times fast, I dare you. They also call that the tortoise form in the industry. You might have heard of it as. So each application for grading, you'll also be required to submit a completed tortoise form. So here are what the application forms look like. As you can see, sorry, but back a little bit. These are actually my favorite applications because if you look about midway down on the left hand or on the right hand side, you can see the submittal requirements. So there's a little checklist there right on the form. Talks about grading plans, obviously soils report, drainage study approval letter, your tortoise form, and stormwater compliance documents. So if you're not sure if any of those things would apply to you, you can always reach out to us and we'll help you out. The next slide was the tortoise form, which should be complete and include the seal, signature, and digital signature of the engineer who prepared the plans. But of course, if that person's not available, any engineer will do, of course, if they're civil. If you had any questions about that, reach out to us. But basically what we're looking for here is information in terms of the disturbed acreage, and we want that to match the grading plans. Okay, so that's what we're going to be looking for. Also, I want to really mention the proponent. That subject comes up a lot. So the grading plan, the signature of the proponent is required, right? And this can either be the property owner, or if the engineer is acting as the proponent, they can sign there as well. That signature wouldn't require the additional digital signature that would be required for the actual sealing of the information. But that little signature line there, we want to see that it's filled up, signed by the proponent and dated. If you have any questions about the form, again, please reach out. Slide 4. So whenever you're ready to apply for your grading permit, as always, you just want to make sure that you're hovering over the building header at the top there. You'll select apply for permits and you'll be prompted to review and agree to the general disclaimer by checking that little box and then select continue. You're going to make sure that you are selecting from the appropriate category, whether it's commercial or residential property, and then select your permit type of grading. And then that's when you'll begin to enter your project data and upload your plans and any required documents. So once your application is complete, it'll go into pending status for the plan submittal staff. If we find that plans do not meet the requirements or something is missing from the submittal, you're going to get an email with an additional information request. This little slide kind of takes you through the process of responding to those additional information requests, where you'll hit, make sure you're in the plan room always. We find sometimes customers want to maybe upload as attachments or something like that. So it's important that you're always in the plan room in the uploads section. You'll click resume, upload whatever plans are missing or whatever you need to, replace. Make sure you take any old files out so that way there's not any duplicates. And then you'll go ahead through that file file validation and processing steps where you click continue and continue and continue. It might ask you, depending on what you're uploading, you might need to rename or renumber your sheets. But once you make your way through that process, make sure you always select finish. Once you hit finish, that's when you know and that you're done, right? That your status is now moved from waiting on customer to pending. And that's when you know that we've gotten it back and we're going to go ahead and process it. Once everything looks good, we'll add a plan review fee and we'll submit it back to you. Once it's paid, we'll accept it. And that's when it goes into the plan reviews department's hands. Again, this was a little bit quick, I know, but this, we also have the, basics of applying for a permit. So if you need any help, if if this one was a little quick for you, please reach out to us and we'll help you through the process, okay?
Thank you, Stacy. All right, now we'll move on to engineering, and I will turn over to Ave.
Good afternoon. Today we're going to present the grading permit part of the presentation, and the inspection part will be presented by Calista. Well, once a customer or a client turns in a grading permit application to us, 3 steps are usually populated: the geotechnical step, civil step, and zoning. Zoning for early grading permit doesn't get activated. Once these steps are activated, my group will do the geotechnical review. In the geotechnical review, we review 4 things primarily. First one is the grading plans and details. The grading plans and details must be sealed and signed by a registered design professional, namely mostly civil engineers, but structural engineers and architects could also seal. This requirement is for all plans and documents that you submit, engineering documents that you submit to the department, and files and packages must have a digital signature from the design professional as well. And the grading plans and details must be prepared per the requirements of section J104.2 of the Southern Nevada Building Code Amendment 2018 IBC. There are about 24 items that the plans should satisfy. Next slide, please. The second one is the source report. That's the elephant in the room. It requires a lot of review, and it should be also prepared per section to satisfy section 1803.6 of the Southern Nevada Building Code. It must be current, means it has to be within 12 months. If not, it should be accompanied by an update letter. If there are addendas, they have to be included during the submittal to be reviewed. We also require letter of compliance from the geotechnical engineer of record, stating that they've reviewed grading plans from the civil, condition plans from the structural, and they will indicate which labels, which sheet labels or numbers, and the dates of the stamp of the seal, so that we know that they reviewed the latest submittal. And the fourth one is if the disturbed area during grading is more than 1 acre, the client has to submit a SWEP document. A SWEP is the Southern Nevada stormwater pollution prevention plan, and it can be found in our website. In general, the note to the client is that if once permit is issued, any revised plans, documents must be submitted by creating a revision in the citizens portal. You cannot just upload it as a document to the permit that's been issued. It doesn't get processed. And as far as geotechnical step is concerned, for us, during the revision submittal, you need to activate geotechnical step, and documents should be uploaded as file type source report. The plans get uploaded as plans, but documents should be a source report. Usually customers use documents, and the documents end up in another folder, and we do get them, but it will require time, waste a little time. So please use source report file type. Next slide, please. Yeah, thank you. Now, types of grading permits. Primarily, generally, there are two types. One is we're referring to final grading permit. This could be a grading permit with building, or a grading permit alone to be followed by a separate building permits down the road. This is the first one. The grading with permit building probably is our preferred way. And during this review, complete geotechnical, civil, and zoning reviews take place. And in the second item, the second grading option is the early and final grading option. The early grading is an optional step. You don't have to take it if you don't need it. And when do we use early grading is practically when we don't have a lot of time between if there is no, for instance, if you realize that the zoning review, which usually takes a little longer because of land use and other parameters, you probably want to do the early grading, just grading permit for now, and to be followed by the complete final grading. If time is an essence, you may use this optional way. What you have to understand is the early grading and the final grading are practically the same plans submitted in parallel. So the early grading doesn't have zoning review, but it has geotechnical review and civil review. Civil, we refer to public works review. And the final grading will have the zoning review complete and geotechnical and civil reviews also, but this will be, since geotechnical is reviewed at the early grading, it will be just very simple review for geotechnical. Next slide, please. So I'm going to discuss the second part, the one with early grading and final grading first. And in this one, the final grading and early grading, both columns, there are two separate permits, but they both have to be approved ultimately to get a building permit and to go vertical. So during the early grading permit, its main purpose is to get on-site grading only. It helps you to start off with your grading, and the rest of the zoning reviews and the building plans will come later. And it must be accompanied always with final grading permit. We prefer that you open the early and the final grading permit at the same time, but if you can also open final grading down the road when you're ready. It's optional. And early grading cannot be used for wall, fence, and vertical permits. During the early grading, a complete geotechnical and civil reviews take place, no zoning review. Geotechnical reports, update letter, addendas, swept documents, all are submitted and reviewed under the early. Clark County Building Code approved quality assurance agency is selected and QA agreement signed. Special inspection items are identified during the review process and documented. Conditions of approvals are activated. These conditions of approvals are very important. We'll see them down the road. And once the permit is issued, all the grading inspection are scheduled and resulted in the early grading permit. So the early grading permit is, some people think it's like a space holder permit because you're going to do the final anyway. That's not the case. The early grading permit has all the elements, and the final grading permit will have mostly zoning review. And once it's approved, it will be used for vertical construction. It requires public work off-site improvement plans for building permits to be issued. Public works may allow screen wall and retaining wall construction if on-site improvements are approved but not off-site. We will discuss this more. During the final grading permit, there will be no new geotechnical review. It's covered in the early grading. Documents are mainly referenced to the early grading. At the beginning, I said that final and early grading are one set of plans, basically going parallel. At the end, they have to match both of them. So the final grading permit goes through zoning, and zoning might have some questions and some plans, some details might change. And to capture those, once the final grading is in approvable state, we submit those permits to the early grading permit as a revision. So the revised early grading plans and the final grading plans, they match, and they have always to match, because at the end of the day, it's one permit split parallel into two. So the reason the highlight, can you go back 1 second, please? The reason I highlighted these elements is for the final grading permit only, the highlighted area will not be needed, but the rest will be needed, is because at the end of the day, early and final will eventually be a final. So in the final grading, next slide. Next slide. Okay, yes. So if you chose the final grading only without early grading permit, geotechnical, civil, and zoning review approval is required prior to issuance of the final grading permit. Requires public work offsite improvement plans for building permit to be issued, and grading permit must be issued prior to vertical permit. And the public work may allow screen wall and retaining wall construction if on-site improvements and zoning are approved. We'll discuss this a little bit more. Next slide, please. So this is the summary that we put together to help out to summarize the whole thing. The most left column is the easiest one for us to review, and is the final grading, the type 1 that I discussed earlier. The final grading, once you apply geotechnical, civil, and zoning get reviewed. If you have questions, it goes back to you guys. You will to the customer responds to it. Once they are approved, it's complete. You get you can do pretty much everything with that permit. You can go vertical, walls, grading, everything. If you don't have time, for example, the second column is the same application. You apply for final grading, but during review, you realize you don't have off-site permit approval. It's pending review, and it takes a little long time. So you can ask basically to get wall permits, grading permits, early model permit to be issued at this time. And we can release those permits. We can give you the permit with conditions applied to prior to foundation. You cannot go vertical, but you can do grading, construct wall, and also build early models. Then towards while you're grading and doing other stuff, you can create a revision. Once the offsite public work permit has been issued, plans are ready, you can create a revision, and you go back to the final grading, the blue one at the very first column. You follow that step again. You turn in your the plans. We review them, very light review, because Geo and zoning already approved. Civil already approved it during the offsite. It will just sail through. You get your vertical permit and you are done. The third type is when you use the optional, the early grading and final grading combination. So the purpose of the early grading is basically you just want to do grading first. And if you apply early grading, we review it. There is only geotechnical and civil. There is no zoning review. It sells quickly. Permits get issued with condition, means that you cannot go vertical. You can only do grading. And parallel to it, while you have already applied for final grading as well. So, once you get your grading permit, you can apply for final. Either way, And you have to go back again through if you look at the flow, it takes you back to the first column. You start, basically you're starting over. Final grading, the reviews for geotechnical civil are done. Only you need is zoning. Zoning gets reviewed, the permit get issued, then you have vertical. So the which part or which way to go or which one to use is primarily dependent on the applicant's pressing issue at the time of the application. If you have time, you're not in a rush, you have everything, you use the first column, final grading. Final grading, review, final permit issue done. If you have everything done, but only offsite is holding you and you want to do walls and models and grading, you pick the second one. You go through zoning, geotech, and while you're waiting for your offsite, you can do all the things in the orange. If you just want to do grading now, you're not sure what you're going to do down the road in terms of development, you can do the last column, the most right. You start your early grading and do geotechnical grading only, and then apply for final grading permit. So that's the process. Thank you.
Thank you, Abe. All right, and if you have questions for engineering, there is their email address and their phone number. Now we'll move over to civil review, and Debbie with Public Works will talk to us about what she looks for.
Good afternoon. Again, we're trying to keep this high level. I know you guys have lots of questions all the time, so always feel free to reach out to us individually. So I kind of want to start at the beginning of what establishes even all the steps before it gets to the building permit process. So the civil review grading, we base it on Title 30. So all the requirements in Title 30 are listed for development. And most of the portions that talk about the order is listed there, Title 30, 0611. In that section, it refers into the land use applications being required. And the land use application is what triggers what is required, like a drainage study is required, offsites are required, dedication of right-of-way traffic studies, all those sorts of things. So a lot of those things are happening way before building permits start. And that is the premise of what my review is, to make sure, obviously the drainage studies happens first, and then we can start the grading process from that, depending on the options you want to do that Abe explained. If you don't have a drainage, not everything requires a drainage study. So if it didn't require a drainage study, then I will be reviewing it individually without that. So go to the next slide. So Public Works in Title 30, it outlines that offsites are required, a bond has to be posted before you can get building permits. But it does make that exception to early grading, or what some people might call at-risk grading. And that just means we're going to allow you to grade on-site prior to offsite approval. And it has to be submitted under a drainage study record. So again, if drainage study wasn't required, it's a different process. So the copy of the form on the right side talks about the submittal options, the different scenarios when maybe it has existing offsites. The middle column is the most commonly used for early grading, which involves the agreement, the copy of the drainage study, the submittal to us, which requires deposit, etc. If your bond is already posted for your offsites, and and you still want to grade prior to those offsites being approved, then you would use the column to the right of the white form there. And we just basically don't have to do an agreement or any deposit. We just look at the plans compared to the drainage. Back to the left here, it talks about the turnaround time. So it really just depends on how complete your submittal is, if your legal description's correct, things like that go with the agreement. So it's not so much that we have problems with plans, it's more about the legal documents that come with it. And as Ave listed, full offsite approvals are still required for building permits, such as a warehouse or commercial buildings, even houses. You have to have offsites before you construct houses. Things like access gates, they should come after offsites because they're reviewed as part of offsites. The biggest thing that I want to remind everyone is if you do early grading or you do any kind of on-site grading prior to your offsite approval, you always have to do that revision as soon as you can. That way it brings the plans up to date, and then it gives you the plans to be able to use for any types of permits that you're doing, whether it's commercial permits or residential subdivision that lets you build houses and access gates or whatever you need. So I can't stress enough, because that's the biggest problem that I have run into, is if you're not doing those revisions to bring in those offsite. Next slide. When we do early grading, they're going to be stamped as grading only, and it's what we've described. It is limited to grading and walls and models. So depending on whether you choose early grading, final grading, either way, you still always have to have the offsites. And what condition I've been placing on those grading permits prior to offsites is that we put a hold on them so that you can't get any foundation permits. You can get pad certs, but you can't get any foundation. Like, you can't start homes and you won't get any building permits with that grading only approval. And again, can't stress enough about the revisions, because sometimes even when your wall contractors are coming in, they're coming in with these grading only plans when the offsites were issued 6 months ago and a revision has never been submitted. So if you take away anything from me today, please try to keep the plans up to date as much as you can so that you eliminate issues down the road. Next slide. For subdivisions or commercial development, the grading submittal is required if the intention is to grade on site prior to the offsite. We talked about that, but the early grading, or what our grading process, is mostly focused on the finished floor elevations, because if you're just out there grading and you want to get your pad certs, we're not looking at every detailed aspect of those plans because they're really just for grading. More of what we talked about, the grading only, vision needed. Another thing for you commercial developers is if you apply for early grading or final grading prior to your offsites, when it's time for you to get your shell buildings, and I'm telling you offsites in order to get those permits, then geotechnical is going to turn around and say, well, these plans need to match your grading plans. Again, as soon as you get offsite approval, do those revisions, and then it makes everything consistent and avoids some of the problems. So one of my biggest roles in my position is to make sure that the plans between Public Works and the building department are consistent throughout the project. So again, as you're doing revisions to, say, building department, those need to come to Public Works and vice versa, so that no matter what you're changing, how those plans are affected, it's important that you submit to both, so that in the field you don't have 3 or 4 different versions of plans, because you have a building permit plan with Delta 3, but offsites kind of built with 5. So just to eliminate those problems, keep your plans up to date. Next slide. Okay, so some of the differences are, as I said, if drainage study isn't required, the civil review of something like a residential lot, it is only done through the building permit review. doesn't typically require a separate submittal to Public Works. Because I review through the portal, in the plan room, to all of my review, drainage type of things, and any Title 30 requirements through the building permit, with exception to the floor waivers, those come straight to us. Civil determines if the structure will meet flood protection criteria, requirements of additional dedication of right-of-way. Drainage easements are also determined with this review. The plans must demonstrate that there won't be any conflicts with easements or drainage improvements. For the most part, reviews are based on previous studies on record. That's where I'm basing the finished floor or the drainage pattern, or the fact that where the flow was coming through that lot. If the parcel is impacted or in any way in a flood zone, a drainage study is needed. So say it's a vacant lot, we're building a new house and it's in a flood zone. We don't have options. You need to do the drainage study. And that's going to take time. So again, we go circle back and you have to wait for that to move on to the next step. So the review of a grading plan is the same, whether it's a principal structure or an accessory structure. And so for like a new custom home, the plan is used for multiple permits. So sometimes people think, well, I'm only getting this, like I'm only getting the detached garage, but we really look at the grading plan as a whole for all of our reviews. It's like, the building department and public works both have checklists to assist to create the plan set. On the right side of the screen, you'll see the checklist that we have online on our website. The link is provided there. But all of our things are under our website for Public Works Development Review. Any forms, applications, those are all under forms. The criteria that our reviews are based on is what we call the drainage manual, the hydrologic criteria and drainage design manual. That is through the regional flood control. It's on the website, it's on our website. And it is used by multiple jurisdictions, so that is provided. So if a lot of times when we say, someone will ask like, well, where did that criteria come from? What's in that manual? If it's not in Title 30, it's not in the drainage manual. And then we also refer to the RTC standard drawings for some things like driveways, legends, abbreviation, for my kind of like single family grading reviews. We use the site visibility zone for like corner lots, whether it's for wall permits or when we're looking at the grading for a new home, and that link is also provided. And last slide, I think. Ready for that. So it's important that you know that anything that is approved by Public Works is available to the public and available online. So if you know that your offsites got approved today, chances are they're already imaged and they're available to you. You can download the PDF. That's the link to the website. And as you can see in the white box, you select the appropriate type of application. And if you know the number, then you just put in the number and search, and you have access to plans. Just make sure you put the appropriate box. If you don't know the application, maybe you're looking for something in years past, you might just use the APN or cross streets to search and find it. But on our website, we also have contacts for our records staff that can help assist find those if needed. That concludes my portion.
Thank you, Debbie. You can also contact Debbie at her email address there. And the phone number for Public Works Development Review is 455-4600. All right, now we'll listen to zoning tell us a little bit about what they're looking at on a grading plan.
Thank you, Shannon. Zoning only reviews the final grading. Zoning does not review early grading. Next slide. What zoning does review is we check on correct parcel number, approved the acreage for the site on plans, what title is what title is the site in, whether it's a Title 29 or Title 30. We look at the relevant land use, and if the land use is close to expiration within 6 months, we contact the applicant so they can start applying for extension of time. Files for NOFA and conditions of approval, normally we review those one and we put as conditions. Is the grading plan in conformance with the plans approved in file? So we look at the land use and we compare with the grading. We look at the airport environment and the overlay districts according to Title 30 and the zoning and permitted use. Next. Zoning also checks on legality of the lot or lots, perimeter, lot dimensions, if there's map, setback, side, front, corner, street. We check also if there's the existing of easements, vacation and abandonment. We check if they are in process or recorded. We also check on special setbacks. For example, they are in Boulder Highway or Las Vegas Boulevard. Other things we check is the lot coverage. Next. We check landscaping area and width. We check parking lot landscaping area per Title 30. We check parking spaces with dimensions and drive aisle according to angles which the applicant chooses, the width per Title 30. Next. Zoning also checks if the applicant is working with Public Works for drainage study if required, off-sites if it's in process, if they are required retaining or property walls shown on their specific locations, we require them to be shown, and also provide details sheets across and cross sections. If site plan, horizontal control and the landscaping plan must match grading plans. And we always, sometimes the people, they forget that one. So that one you have to watch it. Zoning always coordinates their final approval with Public Works and geotechnical. Next. That's it.
Thank you, Maria. So here's the contact information if you need to ask zoning any questions, their email address and their phone number. All right, let's move on to plan coordination, and this is what takes place after all the reviews are complete and approved. And I will turn it over to Emily.
Thank you, Shannon. Good afternoon, everyone. As Shannon said, once all the departments have reviewed and approved your plans, the permit will make its way to our plan coordination team in order for us to add any conditions that will be required prior to permit issuance. Here are some of the possible condition types that can be placed on grading permits: a dust permit, completed grading application, inspection agreement, which is also the same as a third party or QAA, land disturbance / mitigation, tortoise mitigation forms that Stacy spoke about earlier. And once all these conditions are processed, the permit moves to the pending fee workup team, where they, where they put the fees together, and so it moves along from us to them. Give you some information about grading contractors. This is for grading contractors only. Permits being issued to owner builders can skip right over these steps, but every grading contractor must have their own citizen access account. and you must make sure that you link or add a license to that account. So the first step shows you that you start by clicking on your account management in the upper right hand side of your screen. You must be logged into your account, and this will bring up a screen that shows license information. In step 2, under the license information, you will do a search by adding your Nevada license. Please make sure you add the 2 zeros in front of your license number. If you do not add those zeros, it will not find your license. Step 3 is you hit connect and then hit OK. And then step 4 is the status will then show pending. It takes approximately 2 to 6 hours when requesting under normal business hours, longer if our office is closed and you're doing it, say, like on a Friday, you'll have to wait until we're into the office on Monday. Step 5 is when the license is approved, the status will change from pending to approved. If the customer is not approved, that customer will receive a rejection email with information and directions on how to resolve to obtain an approval. We have a license note on here only because only Nevada licensed grading contractors with the following license types can obtain grading permits: full A's, full AB's, A12s, A16, or an owner builder for residential single lot. Keep in mind that a B-type license cannot obtain a grading permit. Next. So if you have any questions about the plan coordination, please contact our team at the ePlan issuance at clarkcountynv.gov.
Thank you, Emily.
Mm-hmm.
All right, now we will move over to fee workup, and Vince will explain what it happens at that point in time.
Thank you. Good afternoon. For grading permits, the fees are based on the sum of the total cubic yardage of both the cut and the fill. So if the cut on this example on the slide, if the cut is 1,250 cubic yards and the fill is 50 cubic yards, the total cubic yardage for the fee workup would be 1,300. Next slide, please. Thank you. To obtain an estimate for the grading permit and the plan review fees, there is a fee calculator on the Clark County Building Department website. If you go onto our website and then you click services, plan issuance, and then fees calculator. And then once that opens, you click on grading. Next slide, please. And when you click on the grading, fee calculator opens up. So from the example on the first slide, you can put in the 1,300 cubic yards on the left side. Click on calculate, and that will give you an estimate, permit fee, and grading plan review fee. Additional information regarding the fees can be found in the Clark County Building Administrative Code, which also is located on the Clark County Building Department website under Services, Library, Current Codes, and then Current Codes Ordinance. There may be other fees that are assessed with grading, such as the MSHCP form, which is for the mitigation of tortoises and other species. And that is based on the acreage being disturbed for the first time. Zoning plan review fees for final grading permits and storm sewer inspection fees for anything over 1 acre. And fee workup has a process called restamp, and that's when the fee workup team reviews all the plans and the information in the cell to make sure it's all accurate. And if it's not, we send it back to have it corrected, and that's what we call a restamp. Once everything's corrected, it comes back to the fee workup team and the fees are worked up. And once the fees are all worked up, the fee workup team will then put the permit into ready to issue status, and the contact person on the permit will receive 2 emails. One email stating the permit is ready to be issued, along with an attachment for the invoice of the total fees. And then the second email will be any conditions that need to be met before the permit can be issued. And that's it for the fee workup team. If you have any questions, please reach out to us by email at ccbdpermitfees@clarkcountynv.gov.
Thank you, Vince. All right, so now you're ready to pull your permit and we move to permit issuance and I will let Emily present on that.
Thank you, Shannon. So just like Vince said, the email goes out. Everybody looks at the first email and they forget to look at the second email, which lists all the conditions. Just keep in mind that all prior to permit issuance conditions must be met before the system will allow you to make payment. If you need any assistance, please reach out to our ePlan issuance team. They'll be more than happy to assist you. You can also visit our website link there to get a list of any other conditions. It provides explanations, things like that. But usually it's just the 4 type of conditions for grading permits. Next. Once all the conditions have been met, the fees can be paid by the grading license contractor listed on the application or the property owner of record if they're doing an owner builder permit. Customers can pay via credit card, a bank account, which is like an e-check or electronic check, a trust account, or wire transfer. Customers will be emailed a copy of their receipt and permit directly via email. Then the plans will be made available for download by the customer. If you have any questions regarding wire transfers or trust accounts, please reach out directly to our finance department at the email shown there on our slide, and they will assist you with obtaining a wire transfer or trust account. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily.
Yeah, and if you have any questions, please reach out to us at the ePlan issuance. We're more than happy to help you.
All right, thank you. Just quick note for everybody, Ava has been going into the chat and pasting into there any of the links that have been talked about today too, if you would like to copy them. And so now you've paid for and got your grading permit, and let's start moving some dirt. And when you're doing that, there comes in the inspection process, and I'm going to turn over to Callista where she can explain that to you.
Hello, good afternoon. So yeah, as Shannon mentioned, this is when the construction process starts. So the types of grading.
Callista, I think something happened with your mic.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, you might just
Okay.
have to repeat a little bit of what you said.
All right. So this is when the construction process starts. And as Emily mentioned, this is also the quality assurance agreement gets printed out or gets emailed to the permit holder and also the selected special inspection agency. And that right there will most likely have a grading inspection. And when that grading inspection happens, there's geotechnical recommendations, a report that the inspectors follow. And those recommendations in that report will pretty much provide a guideline for the items that you see on 1, 2, 3, 4, and thus the level of inspections, whether it's periodic or continuous. Hillside and rockery falls under continuous inspections. That's when the inspector's there from the start of work. Let's say your contractor starts at 6 a.m. and ends at 2. The inspector is there on site from 6 to 2. Periodic, it's also identified as GA. That's when the inspector can go outside for maybe an hour or 2 to take some tests and then come back later in the day or maybe the next day when the contractor is ready for additional tests. Sulfate level you'll probably have a negligible, moderate, or high sulfate or severe sulfate, and that's the category that's also given in the geotechnical recommendations, and that's they're able to classify that when they pull those soil samples on site. The swell also gets pulled as a sample on site from the geotechnical recommendations, and that gets taken back to the lab, and that's how they're able to identify if the site is low, moderate, high, or highly expansive swell for that site. Basement backfill, that one, um, it's basically, you don't see it all the time, but you'll see it in custom homes or in certain areas like commercial. You have your basement walls. It's backfill that the inspector provides, or the inspector observes, provides testing. And most of the time, the backfill won't happen until the trusses are in place. So we have a certification that we review for that one as well. Going down to the next portion of the slide, types of conditions of approval. These are the conditions that we get a lot of phone calls about: pad certifications, recertifications. These are the ones that are holes on the permit that are required prior to scheduling a footings or foundation inspection. So the pad certification is an interim document that's going to be required before that footings foundation inspection happens. The recertification is actually something that gets submitted after 6 months, and that's something that gets submitted after a final grading report is reviewed and accepted by the building department. Section 1 drainage, that one, it's on a form that's also until Section 2. It could be done by the contractor or the homeowner. It's pretty straightforward. Section 2, that one's a little bit more involved. It does require a stamp from your civil engineer going out and verifying the drainage features, and that we also go on site and visit that as well. If not myself, someone from the team. Geotechnical observations, that one's there's a geotechnical recommendation that whether it's footing, bottom verification, observation of drilling, that's a recommendation from your geotechnical EOR, where they go out on site and they follow the recommendations on the inspections they want to perform. And you'll see the form later on in the next few slides. Deep foundation certification, it's pretty much an interim document that the agency uploads for us, and that tells us when drilling is going to happen for whether it's a sign, a carport, shade structure. We go out and we verify those as well. And then the final grading report is just a summary of all of the testing that was performed on site. And then just to clarify where these forms get uploaded, your special inspection agency or third-party agency, they are given a BDIA number, and that BDIA number is where these documents go. They get uploaded, and that's where we're able to review them. And that BDIA number is also linked to the vertical or the permit, whether it's early grading permit, final grading permit, or vertical permit. And that's where if it's approved, you automatically get that communication. If it's disapproved, we like to copy and paste it just to make sure the permit holder is involved with that communication on the inspection on whether it's approved or disapproved. Go ahead and go to the next slide. Resolution of conditions of approval. Project startup form, that's pretty much a form that the third party gives us, and that's letting us know that construction has started on site, and if everything's good, they will not issue any sort of non-compliance. But if work starts and there's no permit, no approved construction documents, they'll come with it attached with an NCR, and that will let us know that work is starting on site and the necessary documents are not there, and we'll probably do a site visit on that one as well. Number 2, pad certification and recertification. Again, that's just an interim document, especially the pad certification, and then the final grading report will follow. Section 1 and 2 drainage. That one there, again, is just an uploaded document that we review, especially for the Section 2. The Section 1's pretty straightforward. And these documents can be found in TG50. Geotechnical observation is probably the only document that's under technical guideline 10 that's separate. Again, this one's from the geotechnical EOR, where they actually go out on site and perform the observations that they recommended for the job. Deep foundation certification, again, that's in TG50. Final grading report, you'll see section J, numbers 1 through 24. That's like a list of items that we follow when we review a final grading report, and pretty much all the agencies are aware of the items that we look for. So you're welcome to look at that as well. And then as you can see, Ava's has the links and the attachment on the presentation. Go ahead, next slide, please. This one here is just a quick screenshot to help with just giving you an overview of our website. You can see on the main page, you go to services, and after services, you can go to the library, and then you can go to technical guidelines. That's where you'll find TG50, as you know, I've been talking about that in TG10, and then in those you can also find the forms, and those are the forms that we talked about in the previous slides. Next slide, please. Okay, so on the upper left-hand corner, that's the project startup form. That's the form that gets uploaded under the BDI number, and that's the one that we get. It's the very first document that we receive. In the middle top, you're going to see the PAD certification, recertification. Those are the two options that the agency has to mark one of the two, and then that gets uploaded for review. This form here does require an engineer stamp, and then on the lower right hand corner, that's our stamp that we put on there after we review the document. On the on the right hand side is a deep foundation inspection form. This one here gives us the location and pretty much the start date of when the drilling starts on site, whether it's for, like you mentioned, a sign, a carport, or a shade structure, or even a swimming pool. This one here gets signed, submitted to us, and then we go out and perform a site visit. On the lower right-hand corner, that's the geotechnical structural observation form. This is the one that's located in TG10, and this is the one that the geotechnical EOR or the EOR fills out. Whether when they're done, they can tell us whether everything's good or if there's a discrepancy, and then they stamp it, and then we review that within 24 hours, or the document must be submitted within 24 hours. And then in the lower middle, this is the section 2, section 1 form. The center section is the section 1, which just requires, a general contractor or homeowner to go out and verify the drainage. On the lower portion of the section 2, that one requires the civil stamp, where the civil goes out, verifies the drainage features, and then either myself or someone from the team will go out and also verify those drainage features as well, and then we'll include a approval or disapproval on the review. And I think that might be it.
It is.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Callista. Appreciate all the information.
Thank you.
Yeah. So really quick, small little disclaimer here, and really it's just to tell you that we're always trying to improve our processes. We listen to the feedback from our customers. So the information that we're presenting today is accurate, and it may change slightly in the future as we're making any type of improvement processes. So if there's been a little while and you are watching this presentation on our YouTube channel, you might want to check our website or contact us just to make sure that the information is accurate. And then lastly, here's a bunch of different links to our website for information. We have a customer service team that can direct you anywhere you need to go or chase down somebody that you need to talk to. And they can be contacted at PACENTR, so PACENTR@clarkcountynv.gov. And they can also be reached at 702-455-8972. And they are live answering the phone. It's rare they can't answer the phone. If they can't, it's because they have a customer sitting in front of them. And if you leave a voicemail, they will return it promptly. And so with that, Ava, one more thing I wanted to mention. I foresee probably having another grading workshop in the future. because this is a complicated process. This is our first workshop that we're having on grading, and we're going to get some feedback from this. We're also going to be updating our how-to guides and our policies and procedures. So it's very likely we're going to have another one coming up in the future where we'll shore it up a little and also share with you our updated forms and guides. And with that, Ava, if you wouldn't mind stopping the recording,